الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. So we pick up in the bab of najasat, yani in the chapter dealing with filth. And izalul najasa, yani to take filth away, is one of the things that is a shart for the ibadah of salah. Yani one of the shurut of salah, from the 9 shurut of salah, and we'll cover them inshallah, is that your jism, your body, your libas, your clothing, and makan of salah has to be pure from najasat. So this means this bab is very important for us. We talked about the 3 categories of najasat, and inshallah the tulab ilm have memorized all of them, right? Mughallada, متوسطة مخففة طيب. مغلظة, 2 things. شيان, what are they? ولغ الكلب والخنزير, the wetness from the dog, and تشبيحا, the pig. طيب. مخففة, what are they? مذي and excellent, mashallah, la quwwata illa billah, which is the bowl or the urine from the ghulam, the baby boy that is still yani breastfeeding. He is not eating solid foods with yani desire to eat them. طيب. Now we said the middle category contains every other najasa. See, so we covered the 2 extremes, the 2 filth, that is the major filth, and the 2 that are light. The major filth, how do you cleanse from them? 7 washings. أولهن بالتراب, the first of them with earth. We talked about the dalail, this is just review. Tayyib. What about the light najasa? You have a baby boy that's mostly breastfeeding, urinates. How do you cleanse it? Sprinkle. We talked about the ahadith on this issue already. Tayyib. What about the baby girl or the baby boy that's eating solids, is his major diet? Then you have to wash. It becomes mutawassita. Next thing, madi. And we'll discuss madi and mani and wadi today inshallah. طيب. فقال المؤلف. The muallif, he says, لا يضر بقاء اللون أو ريح أو هما عجزا. He says, if you are cleansing from najasa, and you have tried your best, يعني عجزا, you're ajiz now, you did your best, and either lawn, color, or rih is still there, then it does not harm you. طيب. It's a very important thing. For example, blood, it stains. And we'll talk about blood and its najasa or not today. But for example, a sister, she has haid, and afterwards some blood gets on her clothes, and she has to wash this. The blood from haid, it's najis, ijma'an, and consensus on this issue. But now she washes it. Now we said blood, it is from the middle najasat, and we'll discuss that in detail today. So we talked about how many times you have to wash. The major, 7, the minor, nadah, the sprinkling. The middle, حتى المذهب 7. يعني لكن ما عندنا الدليل صحيح لأن حديث ابن عمر, there is no يعني clear dalil to say 7 for everything, even though it's a madhab. And this is why we say we don't have ta'assub. حتى Ibn Badran, the great scholar Ibn Badran, in his hashia on Akhsar al-Mukhtasarat, he says that I looked for this hadith, the hadith of Ibn Umar, that everything has to be washed 7. And he said I didn't find it, even though I went to the Musannaf of Ibn Abi Shayba and Abdul Razaq. Yani, in one of the nukhat it said Abdul Razaq. And what does that tell you, subhanallah, that this hadith you cannot find in the books of hadith, so we cannot take it as a dalil. And Ibn Qudam and others have pointed this out in the madhab. So what is rajih? If Ibn Qudam has mentioned Umda and Al-Mughni, that the middle is 3 times. طيب. Now, I will make a point. I was looking at this before coming to this dars, and I was looking at the hashia of Ibn Badran. And he is somebody, is not that long ago, maybe about 100 years ago or less. And it was so difficult that he was looking through all of the books of hadith. He said, even I went to the Musannaf of Abdul Razzaq, and one of the Nukhud, yani Ibn Abi Shaybah. So what does that mean? Yani the earlier ulema, they didn't have all the books in front of them. I mean, for us today, even on our cell phones, you got Maktaba Shamila, you have all of these books. If you have it on your laptop, every book, even hadith books that have not been printed are on Maktaba Shamila. Many of us in our libraries, we have the Musannaf ibn Abi Shaybah, and we have the Musannaf Abdul Razzaq, and the Sunan al-Kabir of Bayhaqi, and these big books of hadith. We have them now. So what does that tell you? It's not about jama' al-ilm, lakin al-baraka fil ilm. Yani today, somebody can tell me, I have the internet, I have all these books of hadith, but where is their fahm? And what does that tell you? That we have to take ilm from its usul, yani from its rules and regulations, from the people of ilm. Today we get somebody who goes online and they have all these, Islam Web has all these books and it's a great resource, but they're not benefiting from that ilm. But we have to go to those ulema accredited by earlier ulema, accredited from earlier ulema that are musannad, yani they are people with sanad all the way to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we take from them in their fahm, and then we strive and struggle that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the fahm. Otherwise, books everybody has today, but we don't see the likes of Ibn Badran on the face of the earth today. So khair, the point being, mutawassita is 3 times. Tayyib. Now, so a sister takes her clothing and there is a stain on it and she washes it 3 times. Shari'an, she's done. But the stain is still there and she keeps trying, mashallah, she keeps trying to wash it until she has washed it so many times that now she's tired, but the stain is still there. Tayyib. So now what does she do? Does she just throw it away? La. What does she do? She can pray in that clothing. Why? Because first she fulfilled her minimum, then she kept going until that najasa is gone now. The ayn al-najasa, the actual najasa, the blood is gone, but the stain is there. So now, as the Shaykh he mentions, that the lawn, the color, or even if some smell is left, then if you have done your best, khalas, yani what more can you do? And this is rajih, this is what is correct. Now, 3 things have the indication of something. Yani, if you want to look at the athar of something, there are 3 things. And we talked about this in the chapter regarding water. What are they? Al-lawn, al-rih, what else? Thumb. Yani, the taste of something. Tayyib? So here the Shaykh says that the lawn wa rih, if it is left there, aw huma, or both of them, ajzan, yani you've done your best, then they don't harm you. What does he not mention? Taste. Yani if the taste is still there, that means the ayn al-najasa is still there. The actual najasa is still there. That means that you have to continue to wash it until that's gone. Now, you may not want to go and taste najasa. I'm not saying you have to. But you have to understand the hukam. So what does that tell you? That if the actual najasa is still there, then you must keep washing until that thing which is najis is gone. But if you've tried your best and the najasa is gone, but a stain is left, or maybe a bad smell is left, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not put on you more than you can handle. Tell you, what is the dalil for this ruling? The hadith, and there is a riwayah from Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu, as mentioned by Abu Dawood, and also a riwayah from Asma radiyallahu anha, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained the ruling, and then he said, لا يضرك يعني للأسماء رضي الله عنه. ففي الرواية من أبو هريرة رضي الله عنها رضي الله عنه, from another Sahabiya who asked, أثرها, يعني the athar of it, the left stain of it will not harm you. And that's clear from the hadith. And also we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us in the Quran that He does not, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not put a burden upon a person more than they can handle. So if you've done your best and there is a stain, you can't just throw your clothes away. In America and the West, we have a lot of clothes. But in other countries and in other times, people only had 1 thawb or 2 thiyab, or any woman would only have 1 jilbab. So if you put a ruling on them that they cannot handle, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has adal. Tayyib. So what is the ruling we understand from this? From the hadith that Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu reported, and also Asma radiallahu anha and other Sahaba, that if the athar of the color or smell is left after you've done your best, then it doesn't harm you, you can make salah in it. If the taste is there and that would tell you that the actual najasa is still there, then you have to keep washing. Even if you wash 3 times, you have to keep washing until it is gone. Tayyib. Now, what if you get some blood from hayd on clothing? You wash it once and it's gone. Is it enough? No. You have to wash it at a minimum of 3 times. If a dog licks the bowl that you're going to eat out of, for example, and you wash it once and all the saliva is gone, is it enough? No. 7 washings at minimum. If you wash it 7 times and the actual saliva is still there, you keep washing until it's gone. Now your bowl may smell weird and then you can't just keep washing forever or throw it away. That's a different issue. Tayyib. Now we get to تطهر الخمر. يعني how does khamr become طاهر? If it becomes خلا يعني vinegar. Khal in Arabic is a name for vinegar. Now the Shaykh is mentioning that if alcohol by itself becomes vinegar, it becomes طاهر. Now this is a very important chapter we're opening up. Alcohol is najis, or we'll discuss that issue today, right? Some of the ulema now they say it's not najis. Tayyib, but vinegar, khal, is طاهر. Yani Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he ate vinegar. And most vinegar, it goes through fermentation. When it becomes alcohol, then it becomes vinegar. So now, can you say that vinegar is najis because it comes from alcohol? No. But can you say any najasa that changes somewhat will become tahir? This is an issue we'll discuss today, inshallah. And it's very relevant to us today because many people talk about istihala and you talk about something najis, pork enzyme, and it changes a little bit in some forms. Is it okay now or not? Tayyib. First thing has to do with khamr itself. Are we as Muslims allowed to take alcohol and make vinegar with it? No, we are not. Dealing with alcohol is haram for us. Right? So how will we get vinegar? So there is 2-3 ways. One way is what the Shaykh is mentioning here, a natural process. Yani some fruit falls or it's dropped somewhere and it ferments and then it becomes vinegar on its own with time. That is halal for us. But dealing with alcohol is not halal for us. Second, this is one way. Second, there are types of vinegar that don't go through the process of becoming alcohol. These are halal for us. Third, there is the non-Muslim that may make vinegar and we can buy it after it's become vinegar. It's halal for us. That alcohol, why is it najis? It's najis because it intoxicates. Alcohol is a compound. There's different types. Ethanol, methanol, some other one, whatever you chemistry guys, right? Are all of them najis? No. Only ethanol, which intoxicates. Why? What is the najasa of it? Is that intoxication. So when that is taken away, then it in itself is not najis. Does vinegar intoxicate you? No. So it's not najis. What if you get a small amount of alcohol in something like a cereal? And cereal in America sometimes they have a small amount of alcohol. What is the hukam there? Many times we talk about certain ice creams and certain things that have small amounts of alcohol. So here Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that anything that intoxicates in large amounts is haram in small amounts. So that means if you get, for example, I don't know, some kind of mouthwash. And let's say, usually mouthwash don't have ethanol, but if it has ethanol alcohol in it. And you say, well, I'm just going to rinse out my mouth and throw it out, so it's not going to intoxicate you. But if it could intoxicate you, then even a sip of it is haram. So if somebody goes and they get something to eat and it has a percentage of alcohol in it, and if they ate a large amount of it, it could make them drunk, then even that one little piece, even if it doesn't intoxicate you, it's haram for you. Hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Istidlalan, from this hadith, we also learn that if there is a small amount of alcohol in something, then even if you ate until your stomach filled and you threw up and you would die from the sodium of it or whatever else, it could not intoxicate you, then it's not haram. Okay? So if there is some cereal, for example, there was one of the brothers, he liked a particular cereal, and it had a small amount of alcohol, so we did research for him. And we found in this particular cereal that if you ate it so much that you physically couldn't eat anymore, even then the amount of alcohol could not intoxicate you. So that means that cereal is not haram. Okay? Now, how would you know? You should go to the people of ilm and they need to do research. This is not something so simple, but the usul is the same thing in medicine. If medicine has alcohol that is enough to intoxicate you, it's haram on us. Illa bid-darura, unless this is the only thing that can save your life or something, that's a different issue. Then even regular alcohol will become halal. But when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked about medicine from alcohol, using alcohol as medicine, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Sahih hadith, he said that this is a disease, not a cure. In some of our countries nowadays, they have brandy. It's a very strong alcohol. And when the child has a cold, they give it to him. And then when the child grows up later and he's drinking, like, what happened? Well, you fed it to him. To keep brandy in the house for medicine is haram on us. This is not a medicine, this is a disease. Even if it has some benefit, like the Quran tells us, there is some benefit, but the harm outweighs the benefit. Now, if some medicine has such a minute amount of alcohol that even if you drank it till your stomach filled, it could not intoxicate you, then that would be halal. Okay? And this is very important because we deal with these things on a daily basis. But what about the container? Here we discuss now dannuha, that is the container that the alcohol is in, which by itself, for example, becomes vinegar, then that container is also tahir, because that alcohol is not there, it's evaporated, it's gone. Now, if there is human intervention, people are trying to make it into vinegar, this is a different issue. And there is some khilaf ulema, I'm not going to go into that. Now, what about other substances? For example, duhn. Duhn, other substances like oil and fat and other things, if there is some najasa in them and it changes over time, does it become tahir? No. And this is the whole concept now about pork enzymes, and some of the ulema saying it's okay because it's changed. No. Why? Because the hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked about a rat that falls in some oil and it becomes dead and najis, what should we do with it? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, pour it out, throw it out. Now, if it falls in something that's solid, for example, ghee, which is the lard, right? And it falls, not pork lard obviously, because pork lard is najis by itself. But let's say beef lard, a rat falls in it, and you can scoop it out. Everything that touches it can be scooped out and thrown away, then that which doesn't touch it is tahir. But if it's liquid, like it falls in olive oil, and this is what the fiqh books discuss, some najasa, and it dissolves in it. Now, what is the hukam? You throw it out. Unless it's more than qullatayn, and we discussed those issues earlier. So if there are pork enzymes in some food today, it will never become halal, no matter how much you change it, because that in itself is aynun najasa. So you need to check those ingredients, and if it's got monodiglycerides or pork enzymes or haram meat enzymes, then you cannot use those. What about cheese? On the issue of cheese, there is khilaf ulema, because cheese is made with using live enzymes. And all cheese is usually, other than that which nowadays you have the, they call microbiology or whatever, they use other non-animal things to make cheese as well. But usually cheese is made through using a live bacteria from an animal. And at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, some of the Sahaba, they used to eat the cheese of the mushrikun. So from this, there are two aqwal of the ulema. One of them, that if it is used, the enzyme that is used to make the cheese is from a haram animal, then it's totally haram. Another qawl, which is rajih, as Ibn Taymiyyah and others have mentioned, is that if pork enzymes were used, then this is haram. Because pork and the pig and all of it is najis. But if live enzymes were used from an animal that is tahir in itself, like a goat or a cow or things, then this is tahir. Because that animal becomes najis when it's slaughtered incorrectly. And if the enzymes are alive, then that means they are not najis in and of themselves. I'm not going to go too deep because we have a lot to cover and we don't have a lot of time. Now there are some substances which we'll discuss. The first of them, blood. And this is not following the matan exactly, but this is what things that we have to cover. Is blood najis or not? Nowadays, this is something ajib, something amazing to me, that some alim today, they will come, and with all due respect to whoever may come with these opinions, they will come with an opinion that you will not find in the ulema of the past. And because it's pleasing to the people, people cling to it. And even if it's a respected alim, zin bil kitab wa sunnah. Everything has to be weighed with the kitab and sunnah. And the aqwal of the ulema of the past, today, many of our brothers and sisters, they have this banner of salafiyah. They talk about salafiyah. But they don't actually follow the salaf al-salihin. And if you ask them, who do you follow? They will only mention a few ulema that are alive today. What about Imam Ahmad and Shafi'i and Ibn Qudama and Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim and Ibn Rajab, all these earlier ulema, they don't even know them, barely. So we have to always go back to the kitab of Allah and the sahih ahadith, and then we have to go back to the earlier ulema who had the best understanding. So about blood. When we look at the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about dam masfuha, blood that flows out. أو لحم الخنزير فإنه رجس. This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called rijs. Imam al-Tabari, one of the earlier ulema of tafsir, who put the first major book of tafsir, in the first 300 years of Hijri, he said about it, rijs, إنه najis. That blood in its asal is that it is najis. What is the asal for blood? It's najis. Imam al-Qurtubi, one of the earlier great scholars of tafsir, in his tafsir of this ayah, he says about it that there is agreement of the ulema of Islam, without khilaf, that blood is najis. Now, today some alim or some talib ilm or some kid on YouTube comes out and he's like, oh, it's not najis. MashaAllah. Tayyib. What about the madhahib al-arba'a, the famous madhahib of Islam? In the Hanafi madhab, blood is najis. If you look at Rad al-Muhtar of Ibn Abidin, which is one of those books of tahqiq that the Ahnaf, they go back to look at the hukam in the madhab, according to the Hanafi madhab, it's najis. Maliki, if you look at the Sharh of Mukhtasar al-Khalil of al-Kharashi, one of the, again, authoritative books in the Maliki madhab, he said, it's najis. If you go to al-Majmu' of al-Nawawi, which is one of the highest books of the Shawafi' to go to al-Majmu', the Sharh Muhaddab of Imam al-Nawawi, he said blood is najis. If you want to know the Muhkim in the Hanabila, and you go to al-Insaf or al-Mughni or any of these books, you will find that blood is najis. In fact, Ibn Hazm, Ibn Rushd, Ibn Abdul Barr, al-Qurtubi, Ibn Hajar Asqalani, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, radiyallahu anhum, all of these great ulama of Islam, they all said ijma'an, with the consensus of the Muslim scholars, blood is najis. Tayyib, when we go to the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you look at the hadith of Asma radiallahu anha and other sahabiyat, when they came with the issue of blood, Rasulullah sallallahu told them to wash them. There's hadith of Aisha radiallahu, many ahadith. So when you go to the Quran itself, and you go to Sahih ahadith, and you go to the aqwal of the ulama of the past, and you look at the ijma of the ummah, all of them tell you that the asl is that blood is najis. طيب? Now somebody may come up today with a different opinion, but what can you do? You have to go back to the asl. Ibn Taymiyyah, Shaykh al-Islam Taqiyuddin Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi, he writes, الدم لم يختلف الناس فيه. Yani regarding blood, there is no khilaf amongst the people about this. It's najis. What does that include? When you slaughter an animal and the blood that gushes out, that flows out in force, masfuha, yani in the Quran as it mentions, this is najis. This is included amongst najasa. So what is najis? The blood that flows out of the animal when you slaughter it. Tayyib, blood from hayd wa nifas. Women have hayd and nifas, this is najis. Clear ahadith on hayd and qiyasan for nifas. Blood from the two paths. Yani if any blood comes out from the front or back passage that humans have, it's najis. Clear ahadith on this as well. Blood of haram animals, like the pig. The pig is haram, the blood of the pig is najis. What about a tiger? Can you eat a tiger? No. So then the blood of the tiger, najis. What about a lion? Can you eat a lion? No. So the blood of it is najis. Other animals that are haram to eat, their blood is najis as well. Large amounts of human blood. Human blood in large amounts, when it comes out of the body, it's najis. طيب? Now what are the exceptions to the rule and what are their dalail? And the rule is what? Blood is najis. But there are exceptions. When we talked about usul al-fiqh in Ramadan, if you remember the brothers that were here, we studied usul al-fiqh. Sometimes there is a hukam, but there is a qarina. There is an exception, and we have to give dalil for that. For example, when we look at blood, in this example, what is the asl in the Quran and Sahih Ahadith and Ijma'? It's najis. But if we look at the hadith of Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, where he popped a pimple and he bled and he smeared it away and he continued his salah. If you have najasa on you, can you continue salah? No. So from this hadith and many other ahadith, I'm just giving you short because of the sake of time, small amounts of human blood are forgiven. And this is tahir, it's given and you are forgiven. Why? Because then it would become very difficult for the people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed that, and there are clear ahadith for this. Second, the blood of shuhada. The blood of shuhada. What is the dalil for that? We studied this in the Sirah Durus as well. But after the battle of Uhud, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered that the shuhada be buried in their clothing and in their blood. Even though if somebody has najasa before their janazah, we wash them to take that najasa away. But the blood of shuhada is tahir. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored them with this. And this is the high status of the shaheed in Islam. The blood of the shuhada, from the clear hadith regarding the shuhada of Uhud and other ahadith about other battles as well, it is pure. Tayyib, blood that remains in meat after you have slaughtered them. Tayyib, you slaughter an animal and the blood flows in, let it flow. And in the sunnah way and the way of Islam is to let the blood flow out. But after you have drained all that blood, some drops are going to remain. You don't have like a vacuum cleaner to take every drop of blood out. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not make najis for you. That blood which originally flows out is najis, but that after you have done your best to let it drain, if there is some blood left in the muscles or in the meat, then that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made tahir for you. Blood from the spleen and liver. It's an exception because it's a hadith and we discussed this earlier about the two types of blood that Allah has made halal and tahir for us. That is the blood from spleen and liver. Ulema said from the hikmah of it that this is very hard to take out. So even if it's a large amount from the spleen and liver, because there is a sarih, clear hadith, we say that this is what we follow. Tayyib. Blood from a human that is flowing that they are not able to stop. Tayyib. Meaning that if you have blood that is coming out of you, let's say, may Allah protect you all, but let's say you were in an accident and now you have blood flowing out and you put bandages and it's still bleeding. Now you need to make salah. What are you going to do? You make salah in it. Right? One, because it's darura. Second, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not put a burden upon a person more than they can handle. And there is another hadith clear to show this in al-Bukhari of Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh radiyallahu anhu. And we talked about in the Sirah Durus as well, when he was hit in the battle of Khandaq, and a tent was made for him in the masjid, and he was bleeding. The bleeding was not going to stop. He became shaheed from it. And that blood was flowing through the masjid, and even then people, they went and they made salah, and they did not consider it to be najis. So that means because he couldn't stop it. And then we can look at the hadith of Umar radiyallahu anhu when he was stabbed and he was bleeding, because here the blood's not going to stop. I mean, he's going to become shaheed from it. So here, this is also taken away from being najasa. Here you can make salah with it out of darura, out of necessity. Tayyib. So this is the issue of blood. Everybody clear about blood now? Tayyib. The asal of it, najis. The exceptions with their dalail, 5 of them, we've mentioned them here. Tayyib. Now, we go to the issue of madhi, mani, and wadi. Those things that are discharged from the human body, things that come out. Now, people sweat. Is sweat najis? No. Why? What's your dalil? First thing is, everything is tahir until you prove it najis. If you say something is najis, you have to bring the dalil. The asal is everything is tahir, everything is pure and clean. So we don't have any dalil for sweat to be najis. Second, we have a hadith where Rasulullah sweat, he used to sweat, and the Sahaba, they used to sweat, and they made salah, and nobody caused a problem. So that means it's not najis. What about snot? Snot, you may be like, ew. If you sneeze on yourself, wash it off, that's fine. But is it najis? No. Why? There's no dalil for it. So these things are tahir. But when we talk about discharge from the human body, when we talk about those things that are najis, or those things that people assume to be najis, then I want to discuss 6 categories of them. The first, al-madhi. What is al-madhi? Al-madhi is a clear liquid that is a precursor to semen. I'm not going to go into detail here. And male and female have it. And this clear, odorless, colorless liquid, what is the hukam on it? It's najis. Tayyib. What is the level of najasa? Mukhaffafa. From the hadith of Suhail, Sa'al ibn Hanif and Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhuma. Tayyib. So this is the first. Does it invalidate your wudu? Yes. Does it require ghusl? No. And from the brothers who were there in the Umdatain Dars, we had a very nice graph. If you don't have it, try to get to it. Maybe ask Akhuna Abu Ilyas. It's a very nice graph on this, and it's good to have it. Madhi. So this is the first thing. Hukam on it is najis. What level of najasa? Mukhaffafa, the light najasa. What do you have to do to cleanse from it? Sprinkle water on it. What is the dalil from it? The hadith of Sahal ibn Hunayf and hadith of Ali ibn Abi Talib and others. What does it do? It invalidates the wudu. Does it invalidate ghusl? No. You don't need to perform ghusl for it. Just need to perform wudu from it. Next, al-mani. Mani is what the human is made of. And there is mani that comes from the man and the woman. And there is a hadith on this issue. What is the hukam on it? It's tahir. It's pure. And the khilaf ulema, but this is rajih. Why? First thing, this is the building block of the human. And we know the human in its asal is tahir. The kafir may make himself najis, but this is a najis that is of inside. Not a najasa that just their hands and their legs are najis. But the human in its asal is tahir. So if the mani is najis, then the human would be najis. Because that which comes from najasa is najis. But then there is clear ahadith on it. In Sahih Muslim, the hadith of Aisha radiyallahu anha, that she said there was mani on the thobe of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she took her nail and she peeled it off, and then he made salah in it. And there are other ahadith that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, Sahih ahadith, where he saw mani on his clothes, He took a stick, he scraped it off. Now najasa has to be washed. So the fact that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did this and made salah in it knowingly means that it's not najis. Tayyib, there are ahadith where Aisha radiallahu anha washed the thobe as well, and that's fine. What if you get snot on your clothes? Can you wash it? Sure you can. It's good to wash it. But is it shari' hukam? La. So if you have money on your clothes, wash them by all means. But the hukam is it's tahir. Tayyib. If it comes out of the human, does it invalidate wudu? Yes, and it also necessitates ghusl. It invalidates wudu and it invalidates your state of hadath al-akbar. It puts you in that state, so that means you need to perform ghusl from it, not just wudu. Tayyib, and we mentioned the dalal for this already. Al-wadi. Al-wadi is the same as mani, the same substance, but it is not what the human is made of. Why? Because it does not come out with force or pleasure. So when the same thick liquid, which is white in men and yellowish in women, if it comes out without pleasure or force, then it's called wadi', and the hukam on it, it invalidates the wudu, but it does not require ghusl, and it is najis, mutawassita, in the middle najasa. Tayyib. What about bawl al-adami, the urine of humans? This is najis ijma'an, with the consensus of ulema, and there are dalal from the Quran and Sahih Ahadith, but there is ijma' on this issue. So urine is najis according to consensus of the ulema, no khilaf on this issue. What about the urine or stool? And for the human also, urine and stool, it's najis. Even that of a Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. Those ahadith that some people try to put forward are weak ahadith. Of humans, of mu'minun, of believers, their bowl, their urine and their feces is najis. Tayyib. Urine and feces of animals that are haram to eat. Tayyib, like a pig or a dog. Those are najis as well. They are najis. Ijma'an, by consensus. Yarhamakullah. The fifth category, urine or feces of those animals that are halal to eat, like camels, like cows, like sheep. Then the hukam on them is that they are not najis. Even though we don't say that you should make salah with them all the time or something, you don't want to smell bad and things. But the hukam is not of najasa. Why? Because Hadith al-Bukhari, that the people of Uqal, they came from outside of Medina, and then they had some problems in their health by living in the city. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them to take the milk of camels and put few of the drops or a little bit of the urine of the camel and as a medicine to drink it, and it cured them. Now, this may seem strange to some of the people, but the medicines you take nowadays, if you go and see, and one of our brothers, Dr. Faisal, had done some research on this, many of them, they have the urine of horses and other things that you would not want to usually think about, but it's medicine. So khair, this tells you that regularly, you don't have to go and drink urine and things from even those animals, but because they were allowed to be used for cure, and this is something that is a dalil to show that it is not najis. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for example, allowed us to make salah in the pens of sheep. Right? So these dalil show that they are not najis. Tayyib. The next thing we need to talk about, and this is very important for us to cover today, is alcohol. If we go back to the classic ulema of Islam and madahib al-arba', all of them mention that alcohol is najis. But there are some respected ulema that in our time have taken this opinion and disagreed with it. And there are some earlier ulema as well. So now we have to go back to the Quran itself. As we mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls alcohol najis in the Quran. Rijsun, and as you mentioned, the ulama of tafsir said, Rijs yani najis. But some people, some of the ulama, they said that gambling and using arrows is also included in this. So gambling is not physically najis, it's a najasa that is a spiritual najasa, so alcohol is the same. But this is khalif to what we find from the earlier ulama of tafsir. The earlier ulema of tafsir all considered this ayah that because alcohol is something that can be touched, that it can touch your clothing. So this is something that gets on you. And gambling doesn't get on you. Right? Soothsaying doesn't get on you. But alcohol does. So this rijs, like al-khinzir, that's called the same word, rijsun, this rijs is a physical najasa. But you can argue this point back and forth. But then we go to the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So those ulema that said alcohol is not najis, they say that when the ayat of alcohol being najis came down in Medina, the Sahaba, they poured their alcohol out and it was flowing in the streets of Medina. And if it was najis, you couldn't throw them out. But this qiyas is weak. Why? Because first thing, many people throw najasa out in the street. And in that time, they didn't have trash pickup. If you had something najis in your house, either you would take it outside, or some people just, even today you go to the Muslim countries and even some non-Muslim underdeveloped countries, people have their trash, they just throw it out. And not everybody has trash trucks coming and picking it up. So this is not a dalil, right? And it wasn't flowing like a river. They didn't have that much alcohol. So it's not like there was, people were swimming in it or something. So this is not a dalil to show najasa or not show najasa. Tayyib. The next issue is that they said that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't instruct the Sahaba to wash their dishes. But this is actually incorrect. Why? Because of the hadith that is muttafaqun alayh, that is reported in al-Bukhari and Muslim. Abu Tha'laba radiyallahu anhu, he asked, and we studied this for those brothers that are on the WhatsApp group for Bulugh. He asked a question from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we live in the ard, in the land of Ahlul Kitab. And they eat khinzir in their plates. They eat pork in their plates, and they drink alcohol in their cups. So can we eat and drink from their plates and cups? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them, don't do so. And if you have to, then you have to wash them before eating. Tayyib. So now for the plates, we understand what najasa is there. Khinzir. Is pork najis or no? Najis. So you have to wash it. But what about their cups? Rasulullah ordered the cups to be washed as well. So what is in the cups? Khamar. So if it was not najis, then why would you need to wash it? And this is muttafaqun alayh. So this means even if respected ulama take an opinion, we respect the alim, but we follow the dalil. And dalil shows that alcohol is najis. And this hadith is a clear dalil for this. And Ibn Qudama and An-Nabawi and earlier a'imma and ulama, not only them, but all of the four madahib, they took this opinion. If we look in Nasab al-Raya, al-Zayla'i, the great Hanafi scholar, in his Takhrij and Sharh of Hidayah, he clearly discussing all the dalail. He gives the Rajih opinion and the Ahnaf that alcohol is najis. In the Sharh Mukhtasar al-Khalil, as we mentioned, Kharashi, he also mentions that Maliki opinion mu'tamid, it's najis. In al-Majmu' al-Nabawi also mentions it's najis. In al-Mughni, after discussing all of the dalail in great depth, Ibn Qudama, he also mentions it to be najis. In fact, al-Nabawi, in his Majmu', he says ijma'an, according to the ijma' of the ummah, alcohol is najis. Now, some of you may go on Islam QA or Islam Web or some other website and say, oh, Sheikh Fulan, Sheikh Fulan. I'm not here to answer why Sheikh Fulan took an opinion. People always ask me, if this is so clear, why does this madhab not take it? I don't know. Go ask them. All I know is the dalil. And the dalil is from the Quran itself. It's called rijsun, najisun. And from the ahadith that are muttafaqun alayh, Rasulullah ordered the washing of the cups for that which is alcohol is drank in. So this is a dalil from the muttafaqun Bukhari and Muslim hadith. And An-Nabawi records ijma' on this issue. All of the four madhahib take this opinion. So what is rajih? Al-khamar wa najis. It's najis. Tayyib, now we get to an issue that has to do with us. What about perfume? And when you spray perfume on yourself, is this najis? If that perfume contains ethanol alcohol, the one that can get you drunk, meaning if you drink that perfume, it could get you drunk, then it's najis, and salah is not accepted in those clothes. So my nasiha, go to atar. Atar is great. Now, if it has methanol, alcohol, or other alcohol that does not intoxicate, that could kill you, but it will not intoxicate you, then it's not najis because that's not considered khamr. Tayyib. Don't have a lot of time, but I will finish up this bab because we don't want to spend too long. This is a summarized dars. So these ahkam are important. These are things you use daily. Ibn Balban continues that other intoxicating liquids are najis, yani they are najasa. So this means that anything that intoxicates, if there is new types, whether it's made out of grapes, or whether it's made out of barley, whether it's anything muskiran, anything that makes you intoxicate is khamr. Clear hadith on this issue. Even if some of the ulema took nabid and this weak opinions, but the raw, clear hadith are that no, everything that intoxicates is najis. Tayyib. Now, from those animals that you cannot eat, like birds and bahaim that are haram to eat, they are najis, and we discussed this already. And if you look at those animals that are like cats, a cat and those that are like it, they are not najis. Why? Because there's a clear hadith sahih in Abu Dawud. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about the cat, إِنَّهَا لَيْسَتْ بِنَجِسٍ فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَوَافٍ عَلَيْكُمْ. It is not najis, it is from those that go around you. So this is clear. Cats are not najis. If they lick something, it's not najis as well. Tayyib. Now, when we talk about the milk or the money from other than insan, from those that are not insan, and their bowl and their stool, then the asal is that from those animals that are haram, all of that is najis. Tayyib. Now, we talked about those that animals that are halal to eat, then we already discussed the hukam on them. What about the things that are haram, but they are not najis regularly? For example, yani if a tiger or a lion comes, just them by themselves, they're not like the dog or the pig, but the bowl, the urine or the feces or the blood from them also is najis because it will come into the asal of it. Then there is no clear dalil on it. Tayyib. What is excused? يعني يعفى عن يسير, what is a small amount that is excused from that najasa which may be on the street. For example, bitteen, yani you go to a muddy road and there is some najasa on it and it gets on your clothes. This is something that this is excused, and there are dalail for this about the Sahaba when they used to walk and small amounts of even najasa of mud and things get on your clothes. This is excused. How much is the small amount? Urfan. You look at urf. But if it is clean mud that is clear from any najasa, then it is tahir. So if you're walking and mud gets on you, this is tahir, it is pure. If there is a large amount of najasa in that mud, then this is najis, you have to wash it. If there are small amounts, even if you know there is small amounts of najasa, but little bits of mud gets on your clothes, then this is excused. Allah has taken this hukam away from us. And alhamdulillah, this ends the bab here. Jazakumullahu khairan. Hayyakumullah.